Morning, Cheryl. So this is the first time I've ever done this, so hopefully it'll work out well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to recap on what we did last week and then go through what we need to do for percentages. Okay, so hopefully it won't take too long, and I've sent you an activity sheet to do as well. So what we did last week is we did measurements in metric. So I've got a ruler in front of me here, and if you can remember, so we've got our millimeters, which are the smallest individual lines here. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 millimeters, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Then these centimeters go all the way up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on until they get to 100. So we have 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter, and then 100 centimeters is 1 meter, and then after that we've got 1000 meters in 1 kilometer. Okay, hopefully that's coming back to you now. So it goes up 10, 100, and then 1000. Okay, right, so that's what we were doing last week. Now for today, I'm just going to do some basic percentages with you, but we're going to start off by doing our 10 times table, and it'll make sense, I promise. So if you remember our 10 times table from school, it's one of the easiest ones to remember. So anything times by 10, you just add a naught onto it. So if we were to do something like 2 times 10, that would just equal 20. We just put our naught on the end of it, you see. No matter what number that is, it could be 67 times 10. Okay, that would just be 670. We just add our naught onto the end of it. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because when we're working out a percentage of something, it's good to know how to divide by 10, which is just the opposite of timesing something, of multiplying something. Okay. Now, what most numbers have, but we don't tend to write them down, is we will have a decimal point at the end of something. The best way to think about this is like something like money. So if we had £2, we could write it like that, but we'd also write it as £2.00, which is, these just stand for our pennies, don't they? Okay, so 2.00. Now, what all numbers have, including this 67 up here, is actually they do have a decimal point at the end. We just don't tend to write them. Okay, so most numbers can be written like this. So 67.0. That 0.0 just doesn't mean anything. Okay, now when we divide anything by 10, instead of timesing it, what will happen is that I'll just straighten that up for you, is that our decimal point here will actually jump backwards once. Okay, so this 67.0 becomes 6.7. Okay, so that's what tends to happen when we divide anything by 10. That could be any sort of number, so it could be 25. So 25 divided by 10 equals, our decimal point is here, we just don't write it down, so it just moves into the middle there, so 2.5. Okay, if we try another example, so if we were to do maybe something in like the hundreds or something, so if we were to do 850 divided by 10, our decimal point is still here at the end, we just don't write it down, and it still only jumps just the once, okay, to this point here. So it actually doesn't become 8.5, it becomes just 85. Okay, I'll just do one more as well in the hundreds, because that can be quite tricky to understand. So we had another number in our hundreds, something like 546 divided by 10, Okay. Our decimal point again is here at the end. We just don't write it down, but it would just jump just the once, and that would then become 54.6. Okay, and that's how we divide by 10. Our decimal points at the end just skip back once, like that. Okay, now you can pause that there if you want, and just try and get that into your head, because the next thing I'm going to go into is why we need to know this for percentages. Okay. So a percent is anything that is out of 100. Okay, so if we've got say a glass of water and it's full up to the top, okay, it's 100% full. 100%, sorry, there we go, 100% full. Okay, if we were to drink half of that, so it came down to about here, okay, I'll just draw a dotted line there to indicate what I mean. So we drank half of it, that means we'd have 50% left of what we had to begin with, so 50% less, so half. Okay, now those sort of percentages like 100% and 50% are quite, you know, easy to understand, but what if we need to work out a trickier percentage? Okay, what if we need to work out 10% of something? Okay, and this is where our division is going to come in handy. Okay, so if we had something, let's say if we were buying a television. Okay, here's our telly. I'm going to buy a TV, and it's a new one, and it's £400. Okay, but we're going to be getting 10% off, because it's on in the sales. Okay, now we need to work out what this 10% of 400 is going to be. Okay, now if we just take our 400, write it down here. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to divide our 400 by 10 to find out what 10% is. Because what we're doing here, if I go back up to the drink here, if I just draw it again, there's our 100%, it's full. And what we're doing is we're dividing it up into 10 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we're dividing it up into 10 parts, and each one of those individual parts is going to be 10%, and so on. Okay, each one of those is going to be 10%. So let's come back down here. So if we divide our 400 into 10 parts, so 400 divided by 10, if we think about what we were doing before, our decimal point is here at the end, so it's going to jump just one place back to here. So we're going to end up with 40, so £40. Okay, so 10% of £400 is £40. Okay. Now it's saying here that our television has got 10% off. So what we need to do is then we've got our 10% here, so we need to take our 10% off our 400. So if we were to do 400 minus 40, we're going to get £360. Okay, so in our sale, our telly is going to actually cost us £360. Okay, if you just pause it there, try and get that idea into your head. Okay, and then we'll carry on with a few more difficult ones. Okay.